So, do we have any operator here who would like to discuss anything? We can wait till the show till anybody shows up, but till then I have added a topic. So I went back to the planning etherpad, and there was this topic added by Christian, who is an operator. He showed up last time, and I think this is kind of a operator topic, so we can probably discuss this one until someone shows up. Yeah, I'm not really sure what Christian means by it, but I see deployment and I can only think about Alan. So, so from what I understand by looking at the patches is uh, we have backup drivers which are inherited from the chunk backup driver. They usually put the backup chunks in memory while writing or restoring. So we wanted to reduce the memory consumption at that point. And in case of RBD, he mentions like we just pipe the data from export to import. But in case of other backup drivers, is there any way in deployments tools that we can reduce this memory consumption? So we have done some effort in DivStack and Triplo, but maybe he's referring to other deployment tools like OpenStack Ansible, or he wants more improvements in case of these deployments tool to help manage memory consumption better in backups.
Well, from the deployment point of view, the only thing that there is, as far as I know, there is no additional way we have to reduce per backup operation memory consumption with deployment tools. With the code, Pete suggested that we should probably try to change the drivers so that instead of getting the data, putting it in the memory, and then doing operations to stream things, to do the data set data stream, so that in-memory consumption would be a lot lower, because we don't need to move the whole chunk. So if they want to use less memory, they need to reduce. Sorry, let me start again. There is one way to reduce the amount of memory that each operation uses, and that is to reduce the chunks with the configuration options of the driver. But reducing the chunks also changes the compression, if you're using compression, because the amount of data that we keep in memory is exactly the chunk amount that we define. If you reduce, then you consume less memory per operation. And then you can use the configuration option that limits the number of concurrent operations. So if you reduce how much each operation consumes, and you reduce how many operations you do at a time, you're reducing the amount of memory that you're using. And if I remember correctly, Rajat, you added a doc to our docs, kind of a calculation for RBD for the worst case scenario, where you were explaining in detail, okay, this is the amount, the chunk size, we have it once here, twice here, we do this, we do that. And I think it would be, in deployment, those are the ways to control. Define the chunk size, a smaller chunk size, and controlling the concurrency with configuration options. That's the only way. From configuration options, I don't see any other way. So it's those two, plus making sure that the service you're running is with the environmental configuration that are pointed out in those patches. The malloc arena max, mmap threshold, trim threshold. So because with those memory tuning with environmental variables, I think the peak consumption during backups is half or something, so it's half of what it used to be. I did some tests, and I think so. There were two issues. Yeah. Yeah, in the which patch was it? The triple O patch. I describe it in the commit message. I saw a reduction in peak memory usage going down from 2.9 gigabytes to 1.2, just with those memory parameters. I mean, those environmental variables that tweak the way glibc does the allocations. Mm-hmm.
What was the size of the backup or restore operation, like the?
Good question. If I'm not mistaken, and knowing me as I know, it's the 1 gigabyte standard. It's small volume. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think it's doing a 1 gigabyte volume backup with no change in the chunks.
And I assume this testing was done with RBD. Ceph backup driver.
RBD, I think it was different. I think I used iSCSI in Swift for the backups. And write it here, but I think that is what I used. Because that was the scenario that we test in the LVM gate. And that is one of the CI jobs that we saw that Cinder was the service that was consuming the most amount of memory. And after dispatch, we completely disappear from the top 10 of things, memory consumption things, mostly because the memory consumption checks are done after the operations. And dispatch also resolved the how is it called, the high water memory issue, which means that you're doing operations, you use more memory, and when you stop doing things, you don't release it. So that's why the memory in the Cinder backup was so high, because it had an issue with not releasing the memory, and this solves that problem as well. And for those who want to know, it's the reason why it was not being released. It's not a problem with the Cinder. It's a problem with glibc defines its own memory arenas for each native thread. Then we use native threads in our code. And also Python has its own memory management that also doesn't automatically free things. So we ended up having multiple arenas for each native thread. Then Python would also have different memory allocation for each native thread, and then we would have our code. So we wouldn't free, and we start with, 10, 20, 40 possible native threads, and they are created as soon as you start the backup service. So yeah, the mess was not that we had a memory leak in Cinder backup. It's just how memory allocation and management happens underneath our service.
I think we did some changes in Cinder also, like some variables were keeping
in DevStack. Well, the changes in Cinder were basically, if we use, because the garbage collector will not collect anything that has a pointer, what the changes in Cinder we did was, as soon as we no longer need a variable, at the next line we don't need it, we set the variable to none. So that the garbage collector can, if it goes through a cycle of garbage collection, we'll see, oh, there are nobody's referencing this big chunk of memory, so I can garbage collect it. Yes, that is true. We also added a couple of places with that.
Okay. Yeah, I remember setting the variable that stores the chunk. We started setting it to none.
Exactly. So yeah, from a deployment point of view, only 3 things they can do. Anything else we would have to do in the drivers ourselves, with the idea that Pete suggested.
Ilka, can you repeat Pete's suggestion? I didn't get it the first time.
Yeah, so you mean the idea from Pete?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Pete said, okay, for him, looking at the Cinder driver code when he was working on the preserving sparseness patch, he said he had looked at the code and he was surprised that we were doing things so statically, as in read everything in memory, do the compression, calculate the hash. Well, we calculated hash before, but it doesn't matter. As in very serially, he said, it could be better if we use the data was a stream. So you start streaming data, reading data, you calculate the hash as you read, which is basically like piping. You start piping things, you calculate the hash. The next part is you start compressing. In that way, you don't need to get that much in memory because it's just the data you're calculating the hash. So it's just small buffers that each of the operations you're doing keep in memory. So basically streaming the data instead of block reading, which is what we do right now. But that requires coding, and then probably the format that we store with the metadata of the chunks would need to change because compression, it's probably not the same, the exact same algorithm, or the way we call the compression would change because one is a stream, the other is it's a whole thing. So when you're doing a streaming and you're compressing or decompressing, compressing, you cannot pass multiple things multiple times if you want to be, for example, more efficient to calculate the optimal compression tree. You have to do it dynamically. So I don't know if when you decompress, you would also need to change something. I don't know what headers we are currently using, to be honest. Anyway, without coding, that's the best we can suggest. Or that I can suggest. Somebody else may have other ideas.
I think we have done good amount of improvements in different fronts, and yeah, combining all these, like limiting the number of operations and the small chunk size, I think the combination of this would be very beneficial and add value to like the whole operation.
Is it just me, or it's a bit depressing that there are no operators to complain about Cinder?
We should be optimistic.
Sorry?
Or they're very satisfied.
We have fixed everything.
We all know that's not true.
So this is slightly off topic, but it's related to DevStack and memory usage, which both just talked about. But Dan Smith, find this sheet, put in a DevStack patch recently. Let me pop this out. So he did local tuning for MySQL just on jobs he was running. So, and I think he says in the commit message, he just grabbed some general, Stack Overflow stuff for some suggestions. So he introduced this variable into DevStack called something like MySQL reduce memory usage or something that you can set true, like this. So I'm just pointing this out because in the past, what I've been doing when we've had jobs that run out of memory is increase the memory that's allocated to the node, which seems to help for the Ceph jobs. But I think there was some reason for that. But anyway, I just wanted to mention this. So if people start seeing jobs failing, because MySQL seems to get reaped, I guess, because everybody's using it, so it kind of bloats. I don't know. But anyway, this is another possibility for something we could try in the gate to reduce our memory footprint. Yeah.
We recently added indexes to some Cinder requests, which we didn't have before, and those probably affected as well the memory consumption in MySQL, because before we didn't have any kind of indexes for volumes, for things like that. So when we were reading, whenever we ask a list operation, MySQL had to load everything and then manually filter the deleted field and everything. It could not just use the hash, the index, and see filter out automatically. So maybe that also helps a bit with how much memory is being consumed by MySQL due to Cinder's behavior. Yeah. And are we enable MySQL reduce memory by default? No. It's false by default, I think.
So he's put up a few patches, like that second patch does it in some of the periodic jobs, I think. So it's basically at this point, I think if you notice that it might be helpful, go ahead and do it. I think he was a little leery about making a change for everybody because he had no idea what would happen because it might, it might slow things down because you're using less memory, so less memory is available, and then that might have undesirable consequences. So it's just something to watch for in case we start seeing out of memory issues on the jobs.
Yeah, or in case sounds good. And I appreciate that not doing this globally, because I hate when somebody makes a change and suddenly we start seeing failures in our gate and we have to go and investigate who changed what where that broke us. So I think this is more sensible. Now, I'm wondering, should we comment this option in our Soul jobs? Because now I remember you mentioned, this is the patch, and I see, the name of this configuration option is MySQL reduce memory, but don't ask me for where or what the name was, where I found it, or where the name was in 3 months when I need it. So if we add it as a comment in our tool file, even if it's commented, we don't use it, or we are just explicitly set into false, it would be easier if at some point we need to use it to say, wait, what is this thing?
Yeah, okay. I may, it'll make me, I'll follow up and do that because it'll make me feel better about those changes I made that increased the amount of RAM available to the VM on the jobs. Okay, I'll take an action item here.
Thanks.
The config options Dan has set in this, so these are specific values. So wouldn't it differ for different gate jobs? Like some might be performing a lot of operation, putting more load on MySQL, and some might not be doing that many kind of amount of DB operations. So I'm just curious why we are using these set of specific values in DevStack, and I also don't see that explained anywhere in the commit message. So yeah, but these are very specific values for those config options.
I think probably it's similar to my patch in for reducing the memory. It's basically I did a bunch of tests and this seems to be the best ones. Probably it has something to do with that. So there is no, how would I say, easy explanation of, yes, this exact number is because of this threshold and this and that. It's basically, this seems to work fine enough and better than other options.
Yeah, he just said he came across these in various things on the web saying how to reduce memory.
Stack Overflow. Yeah,
and it seemed to work okay for him. So, and I think that's why he made it a variable and defaulted it to false, because you just don't know what's going to happen. But it seems to be working okay in the gate. I think it's been merged about a month. I'll have to look to see which. So the periodic stable jobs are using it. I think there are a couple more. So. Although maybe he may just be experimenting, but I thought maybe like the integrated Tempest, but I'm not sure. Well, so Luigi, are you paying attention?
Yes.
So it looks like the DevStack plugin NFS has no tags at all. Am I reading that correctly in the?
It's not branched.
Right. So, but it shouldn't it have like the last tags like the Cinder Tempest plugin has, or is it a different?
No, so DevStack is a different beast. So,
right. Okay.
And in fact, we have like I think just 2 active DevStack plugins around nowadays. One is the Ceph one, which was not branched, but it was branched or so for all the branches until Stein. But then the older one, no one is taking care of them. And then there is the DevStack plugin NFS, which usually the changes are so slow that probably it doesn't matter much. I mean, branching that would mean probably more work. But if you agree on following the same rules of DevStack, then it just can branch, and those issues are going to disappear because it will be just like DevStack. So deploying the last master, then you have to check out the older branches in order to check what's going on.
So, okay. So since it's a DevStack plugin, then it should follow the DevStack practice of branching. Okay.
Maybe. or we need to make sure that everything is in place for all the branches for which we still run jobs. And that's the fix I've tried to make to apply to the repository.
Oh, okay. So did you put a patch up?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't see it. Okay.
I don't think any operator has showed up. So maybe we could continue with our normal PTG discussions. Yeah, we don't have to go anywhere since this is the room we have been using for both operator hour and our Cinder PTG. But I will just switch the etherpads. Like, does anyone have any other thing for the operator hour discussion if there is anything? Yeah, I will just switch the etherpads. Okay, so let's discuss about SQLAlchemy 2. Brian, I think you added that.
Yeah, I added that, but I don't really have anything. I think we're in okay shape because of the changes that Stephen had made. So I think that the main point of this is that OsloDB's added support, and soon it will stop supporting one. So people have to be ready. I guess I was just wondering what our situation is with respect to testing the because we had the big migration to Alembic, and I don't think we've had any big database changes over the past couple of cycles.
I think Stephen
Yeah.
updated some patches. He still has some things to be merged to support this as a whole. But yeah, I think we are pretty much there. We have most of the things that. So we also read that legacy engine facade thing where we
Right.
used the reader writer decorators. So context manager, yeah. So
Yeah, and the grenade jobs don't seem to have been affected. So our upgrade stuff seems to be running okay. Oh, here's the yeah. So those are just a couple of cleanup things. Okay. So yeah, I didn't really have anything to say other than we just have a couple more things to do.
Stephen also has a patch to use. So we have this abstraction layer where we have Cinder DB and then we have SQLAlchemy. So we don't have any other ORM other than SQLAlchemy. So I think Stephen proposed a patch to remove that abstraction and just use the SQLAlchemy as default. I think here is the patch. I'll add to the Etherpad. Are there any thoughts on that? Do we want to do that or not a good idea? I think Nova has already done that.
I think we do want to do it because we're not going to support anything other than SQLAlchemy anyway.
I would like to mention that I have some patches fixing database stuff. Well, fixing. Some of them are cleaning up all the stuff. Others are basically adding a check that with the whole change of the database that we did with to the new migration we lost. So previously, to make sure that we didn't break rolling upgrades, we had a check that said, okay, let's do the migration, let's do this thing. Then the test did run the migrations and they check the kind of operations it was doing. Was it dropping a column? Was it doing this? So it would fail if you did an operation, a dangerous operation. Just to bring it to the attention of somebody sending the patch without knowing about rolling upgrades. So all they had to do was say, okay, this migration is safe. So that would make it easier for a reviewer to say, wait. So you're modifying this check and they would pay extra attention. And yeah, I'm still waiting for that one to merge. Let me see if I can write it somewhere. Yes. So if we could merge that, well, now that I think about it, never mind. I don't think this has any. Nope, it's fine. I was worrying that we would introduce more changes, and then my patches would go back to being broken, like it happened with the whole quota effort that I started. Suddenly we changed the whole database layer and all my patches went into merge conflict. But nah, never mind. Sorry for the misdirection. And on the subject, I am in favor of removing the unnecessary abstraction layer that after so many years we have to accept. It's never going to have a different ORM or anything else. And by the way, this is going to break Cinderlib. Awesome. Yep. But yeah, it shouldn't be too hard to change where it's looking for the files.
Yeah, hopefully, Burka, you will be around this time when we break it. Last time we did a bad patching job.
Why does it break Cinderlib?
Yeah, because Cinderlib has what it calls persistent plugins. Basically, instead of it does have what Cinder doesn't have, which is multiple ways to store the metadata. So to save it in the database, it basically uses the existing code in Cinder quite directly. And it also has other mechanisms. So yeah, when we remove and we move things around, the persistent plugin will probably break. It should be easy to fix because we're not changing the names, we're just changing the namespace. No big deal.
We also need to keep backward compatibility, like if Cinderlib is compatible with the older Cinder version. So
no, I think we decided a while back that Cinderlib would only work with a specific Cinder version to avoid going crazy with backward compatibility, because yeah, so it should be fine.
Yeah, it's branched just like Cinder is, so we should be good.
sounds good.
Yeah, and we even changed the requirements.txt so that the Cinder version is constrained that Cinderlib can use if you install Cinderlib. So. Which reminds me, it's probably, no, I think we did we open Cinderlib for, no, Cinderlib master is still Antelope, right? Okay.
Yeah, we did release Z when it was time. Yeah, I think
And we had to,
when we had to open Antelope.
we had to fix everything. Gorka had to fix everything that we fixed. Okay.
I think Luigi, we still have 1 to 1.5 months time after the Cinder release to get the OS break release. Oh, sorry, the Cinderlib release done. So the release team will soon send a mail after the PTG to watch out for the deadline.
Yeah, but the deadline is like the last time. I mean, it can be done earlier if.
Right. but I've never known that to happen.
But now with the possible breaking change, maybe it's better close it. But I mean, I'm not
Oh,
the
I
one
see what you
going to
mean.
fix that. So
That's a really good point, Luigi.
Yeah, because the fix would not make any sense to release it where it's not broken.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I will, after the PTG, I will take a look. I can take a note here as an action item.
Well, although, right, so Cinderlib still goes against stable Antelope. So we can do anything we want in Cinder, and we're okay with Cinderlib. But
Yeah, I think we cap the requirements to only Antelope, right? Or do we update the minimum version in Cinder?
I don't even remember. There's a really well-written document, though, that explains exactly how that works. Dig it up.
Yeah, but probably we don't need to figure everything out right here. I think it's the most important part is saying, yep, we agree, or at least some of us agree to remove the extra layer. And let's hope we don't have any fixes in there, because the backport is going to be a pain. I mean, if we remove the extra layer and then introduce backfixes in the database that we have to backport, is going to be a little more inconvenient.
Yeah,
think
just so this is slightly off topic, but we do need a Cinderlib patch to continue Antelope development. So I'll take an action to do that because I can just copy one of the previous ones.
And what exactly do we need to do?
We have to change the, let me find that document because I will forget some steps. But it's basically what happens is all the CI stuff is running against Cinder Master right now because that was Antelope development. And now that it's branched, we have to start testing Cinderlib against stable 2023.1 instead of Cinder Master. And the same thing for OS Brick. So it's just, so we have to change Zool.yaml. I think we may have to change some Box INI stuff. Yes. There are a few things. I'll find the document. So I think it's in the, so you want to contribute document for Cinderlib.
I remember we have a different job which we use for, I think, this time period when Cinder is released and Cinderlib is not.
Yeah, I haven't figured out a way to automate this because it might be doable. All right, put a link in the anybody who's interested. It explains the release model for Cinderlib and then also what we have to change to do stuff.
So this is slightly off topic, but we have the Nova PTG cross project tomorrow and Glance cross project, and there is a 1 hour gap in between where I had put a placeholder for quota discussions, but I don't think we have a lot to discuss there. So maybe I can ask Sylvan to schedule it 1 hour earlier. Nova does have another topic for the cross project. I think Sean Mooney added it. We'll be joining the Nova. I think it's in Zoom. We'll be joining the Nova team there. And let me ask Sylvan about this.
Thanks, Rayet, for pointing out that they have a new topic for the Cinder. The Nova team has a new topic added by Son. Yep. It's an interesting one that I think somebody recently asked about. I don't know when, where, what email list I saw it asking, but yeah.
Yeah, I also saw this morning while going through the Etherpad. So for everyone, it's on line 120 on the Nova Etherpad.
So I think, right, we save the image metadata, right, and can display it as volume image metadata or something, right?
Yeah, we do store the image metadata.
So it
In
would be
the
available. I mean, I don't know that we'd. So I don't know what he would. Well, I guess I can ask him tomorrow what he means by doing it more cleanly, because as far as we're concerned, we really don't care from a Cinder point of view about this kind of property, do we?
But where were we storing that value? If I just forgot, I looked it up last week and I just forgot
I think
where
it's
we stored that.
I mean, maybe what he means right now, we have an API response that just dumps it all. But for volume metadata, you can specifically ask to show a particular metadata item by key.
Sorry for keeping everyone waiting. Just finalizing tomorrow's Nova Class project with Sylvan. They have a session at 1500 to 1530 with Lance. And yeah, I'm just asking if we can schedule it half an hour earlier, because I don't think we have anything after the Lance Cross project. I mean, we have quotas, but we don't have much to discuss there. Yeah, I think I can discuss it and update it on the Etherpad then, like, no point in making everyone wait. I think we are done for the day, and yeah, again, we have less number of topics for tomorrow and Friday, so if anyone has topics, they can add to the planning Etherpad or contact me on IRC or via email, so I can arrange those topics in the time gaps we have. So yeah,
Since
anyone has, yeah, Brian.
Yeah, I was just going to say, since we want to get that database stuff merged, should we ask who wants to? Like, I was looking at the patch to remove the API is relatively straightforward, but it's like 1 million files. So I'm willing to look at it, but I don't want to do it if other people are already doing it. So I wonder if we should just sort of break that work up and then
I had looked at some of it before, so I don't mind looking at it. One of those largest patches is in merge conflict right now, which I assume won't be too messy to fix, but somebody needs to do that.
yeah, that one is in merge conflict. All right, it's got so that patch has 2 small dependencies. Um, look, so if we can get those 2 small dependencies merged, then I'll resolve the merge conflict on the big one, hoping that it's not going to be a monster.
Brian, are you referring to the patch of removing legacy migrations, or?
Sorry, let me find the Etherpad and put them in here so we know what we're talking about. So this is not right. Yeah, so the ones on line 256 and 257 are ones.
And the changes look big, but most of it he's just rearranging or it's just a formatting change. So that's why those line of code are much higher. But I don't think he's doing many significant changes. I can volunteer to look into the patches. I think there are 4 patches as total. Yeah, we can try to get them merged by milestone 1 or 2. Also, update from Nova side, I have Sylvan has agreed to change the time, so we will be meeting from 15:30 UTC to 16:30 UTC, just to save everyone's time. And yeah, else we would have to wait for an hour between the glance and Nova session. Okay, then any other final thoughts for today? I will just stop the recording.